Okay, this is going to be chapter 34 of the book God dictated to me as he dictated the Torah to Moses and the Hebrew Bible to many other men. Just assume Isaiah wrote Isaiah and was a prophet of God, because if you talk to God, you become a prophet of God, and you can find that how that's explained in other videos or in the book itself, which is online. You can go find it. All of my videos come straight from the book, which is titled Isaiah 53 and the Day of the Lord, which is here. And Isaiah 53 describes his representation, the man who's going to be his prophet like Moses. God's righteous servant is the prophet like Moses, and he is Moshiach to boot, as was believed in the Talmud by the ancient sages and rabbis of our time. Chapter 34 is called God's Power in Creation. Moses was a person who murdered a man in anger, hid the body, and when discovered became frightened and ran from his crime, and then became a person more humble than any other man on earth at the end of his life, according to the Torah. He was chosen above all mankind, achieving a greater knowledge of the Almighty than anyone before. Moses was a man like Ezekiel, in that his spirit could become infuriated. To calm the spirit and soul of Ezekiel, God pinned him to the ground for 430 days after removing him from society. He said, and that's verse 8 of Isaiah 53. Ezekiel, go to your house. I bind you with the cords of my power, and you shall not go out amongst the people. Taken from the land of the living, society. Silent as a lamb, he wasn't talking to anybody. You see, God left what I'm about to read to you, the fire of refinement, how he gets a man ready to be his prophet. He left it out of 53 so that only I, the righteous servant of God, can explain it to you. But you can find it in Ezekiel. That's the backup. And he did it on purpose. It's crafty writing. He didn't want anybody to figure it out. Toby Singer, Jews for Judaism, they're so far off base, it's not laughable. It's just, they're not even close. It's not Israel. It can't be Israel for so many reasons. And I point that out in many videos. But that's God's representation for this day, because there's two covenants to deliver. And those two covenants are written into the two books he dictated to me, but primarily Isaiah 53 and the Day of the Lord. They're activated when they get published. It looks like the book's an attack on Judaism. It's not. But it does look like that and seem like that. But what it is God says, y'all got too many things wrong. And I knew I'd have to have another day to come down here, deliver a couple covenants, get my temple built. And that's in the covenant of friendship. I'm going to place my temple amongst you again. You'll never be defeated and dispersed again. And he calls it his eternal temple. So this one's not going to get destroyed. Let me just carry on. Oh yeah, but this fire of refinement, he left it out on purpose. And again, the backup is Ezekiel. That's the key to 53. Look what all he goes through. And he matches about 5 or 6 of the verses. Okay? And God tells him what he's going to do to him. It's actually described, the fire of refinement. Ezekiel, I'm going to make your forehead like adamant, harder than flint, your face brazen. And you shall have no fear or dismay from my people. He's going to toughen him up. He's got to go to God's prophet boot camp. That's what I call it. Because it's just, I'd rather be a cadet trying to be a Navy SEAL or a Marine than go through what he's put me through. But it changes you. You become a different man, and the man he wants to use. Nobody's born to be a prophet. It's just too much that goes into it. And to be with God constantly, 24/7. I don't have to pray to talk to him. I just have to say, God, and he'll say, Keith, what? 16 years now. Yeah, well, that's how far along I've been in the fire of refinement. This kind of tells you where my spirit was as far as being furious and easy to anger. Yeah, we took care of that, so you don't have to worry about it. So he pins Ezekiel to the ground for 430 days with his hands handcuffed behind him in God's power, cords of power. On one side for over a year. Then he got to flip over on the other side for about 40 days. And you say, oh, I can't imagine God would do that to a person. Oh, I can. That's not a problem for me. My point to him was, that's it. 430 days, you've been with me 16 years. How come I'm not ready? And he says, it's just a more complicated time now. And chastised him. These are the big words. Crushed and bruised, pinned to the ground, maltreated. Those are the big six of Isaiah 53. Wounded, punished, crushed, bruised, maltreated, chastised. When God chastises you in his words and he's maltreating you, that's something that can hurt you to your very marrow. It goes deep. More so than a human being doing anything to you. Until he was suitable and humble enough to be a prophet to the Assyrian Babylon exiles and teach the words God teaches him during this time. Which I believe I have, but it's the phrase when he tells Ezekiel to eat this scroll. That's telling you that, and then he says, now go speak these words to the people. Those are his words. And obviously this is a 215-page book pointing out things he wants straightened out. And I mean quickly. Well, as quickly as we can do it. It's been a long time, and it's time to get to Israel. A man does not go from being hot-tempered enough to kill another man to being the most humble man on earth by being the leader of hundreds of thousands of men and women and known to converse with God. That enlarges the ego of a man. And it's not a humbling experience. In some manner not spoken of in the Torah, Moses was put through God's fire of refinement, of punishment, and chastisement, maltreatment, just as Ezekiel was, to be suitable for his purposes. As all of God's prophets are to one extent or another. It depends on the tasks to be done. It is his way of preparing them for his purposes, from simply writing his words to being leaders of men. God's righteous servant of Isaiah 53 is the prophet like Moses, who endures the fire of refinement, chastisement, punishment, maltreatment, crushing, and bruising by the hand and words of God, the power of God, doing these things to you. In his fire of refinement, God incites and brings out your emotions, everything, anger, sadness, embarrassment, And it just never ends. He's relentless. And of course, he doesn't sleep, which means I rarely sleep. I didn't know I could stay up for 4 days straight, but I've learned I can. Sleep deprivation. I'm telling you, he's very thorough. God incites and brings out emotion and calms the spirit of a man eventually in his words and power. It humbles a man. That's why we know Moses went from this angry murderer who ran away from his crime into the most humble man on earth. That one phrase tells me he was in the fire of refinement. But there's other things you can point to for Moses to know okay, God doesn't want me to go into that. I'm going to finish this up. When God uses his power to change the spirit of a living man in life, in his creation, in the fire of refinement, it is not to be taken lightly. God enjoys watching creation unfold naturally, as he knew it would, and not as he can make it happen, if he wants to. Speak it, will it, and it is so. Not changing it in his power. That is nothing to him. If he thinks it and wills it, it is. The fact that he knew everything from beginning to end, could think it all through, so to speak. He calls that having a knowing of things. But that's what he enjoys. So this is the day of the Lord, but I wouldn't expect any big miracles or anything from him. I mean, he's not, this is how I'm going to be recognized. He gave me 3 proofs. It's the books and my knowledge that's in the books. My knowledge that Elijah would have of heaven, because that's why God took him to heaven, and in the day of the Lord he returns. You got to ask yourself, what's going on here? It's on the book, and I've had it in other videos. And finally, the fact that I can explain Isaiah 53. 3rd proof. Moses had 3 proofs, and compared to what I've been given, they were nothing. And yet, he got 600,000 Israeli slaves in Egypt to follow him with their families. Some people estimate 1 million people. They did their share of complaining. Okay, that's it. Next chapter is 35. Some of these chapters are real short. Some are terribly long. I have one that is Isaiah 53 with Rashi's commentary, my commentary on every verse, and then my commentary on Rashi. And it's 11 half-hour videos. It just took a long time, and that's in the book. But also a lot of these are real short.